All right, this is a long time coming for a few people. Yeah, okay, you, who's been commenting, attempt to get Jeremy to review Sam Raimi's Spider-Man number 56 or whatever. Here you go. You got it. Also, proof I read comments. And also, this provides reason and method to madness. First of all, thank you for the concern for my well-being after my last video. Drinking, fine. Robe, fine. Looking like this, kind of fine. All three together, don't do that or you're gonna scare the fans. But in my defense, I was actually going to do a video on Sam Raimi's Spider-Man for my previous video, and then I was like, oh, power pill or whatever, I should probably watch that and review that. And so there you go. If you were gonna do a video on Raimi's Spider-Man and you had to watch and review a pretty mediocre movie, you'd probably look like an alcoholic out-of-work artist too, but now here we are. The world is back rotating in its normal axis, so here we go.
Look out, ooh, here comes Spider-Man.
So Spider-Man came out, the year was 2002. Actually, a year before that, there we go, story time. Don't want to bore you too much, but it's a fun story, for me, anyway. So some of you may or may not know, I was a projectionist back in the day, and the year 2001 was one of the years I was a projectionist, and this was about July 2001. And I don't remember what movie this trailer came on. It was either Jurassic Park 3 or the 2001 Tim Burton Planet of the Apes movie. I don't remember which. Point is, new movie came in the metal cans as they would. They would come in 6 little reels that I would have to then splice into one big reel. Some movies were 5 reels, some were 9. 6 being the average, but the cool thing was when a new movie came in, there would be new trailers in those cans. It was neat because there was no social media, you know. You didn't get advanced notice. There were surprises in the movie trailer world. And on this particular day, sometime in July 2001, one of those surprises was a trailer that said Spider-Man. And my brain just about melted right before or after I just about shit myself. The trailer had to actually end up being pulled because it has the Twin Towers in it, and a couple months later, 9/11 happened. But in that time, I would go into the auditorium every time that trailer showed. I knew the movies it was on, and I would go right in there, and this one dude, because the trailer is actually set up to where you don't know that it's a Spider-Man trailer. It's just a bank robbery going down, and like I said, there's no social media back then, so no one knew what this trailer was. It was just a bank robbery happening. And when the helicopter gets caught and it zooms out and it's a spider web and the propeller is kind of twitching like it's a fly in a spider web, this one dude in one of the auditoriums, just some customer, and he goes, "Oh my God, it's fucking Spider-Man." That's the perfect response to this trailer. It's actually, the trailer's on YouTube. I put a link below. Go check it out and watch it with the context that when you watch this trailer, you know a Spider-Man movie is coming out next year, but nowhere in your realm of reality is this trailer going to just be here on this movie, whatever movie you're watching in July 2001. And even as you watch this trailer, watch it knowing that you don't know it's a Spider-Man trailer until you know it's a Spider-Man trailer. In that context, it's one of the best teaser trailers ever made, I think. I mean, well, don't go yet, you know, watch this video, and then after this video, go watch that trailer. Sorry to prattle on with that story, but you know, it's all part of my Sam Raimi Spider-Man experience as it was rolling out back in the day. Because for a while, it just kind of looked like this movie wasn't gonna happen. There was some production hell. James Cameron was gonna do it for a bit, and then he wasn't. We're all very connected to the goings-on of movies now, but back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the internet was just a different place. We all had to scramble to Barnes & Noble and flip through whatever movie magazine to try to find some tidbit about the Spider-Man movie, and, well, I kept up on it. I was pumped for it, and so when I saw this trailer, I was like, oh my God, it's like it's reality, and it'll happen. And then it came out, and it was awesome. And when it came out, when it hit, it was the highest grossing opening weekend of any movie ever when it came out. Which, its number now seems pretty modest, but back then it was crazy. Because what Sam Raimi did in this movie is he nailed the tone of Spider-Man. There are things that he changed in this movie, or I was like, logistically, I don't like that he did that. But as the movie went on, I stopped caring. Like, he doesn't make web shooters. It's just actually a thing that he shoots webs out of his wrist. Which is funny because if they're actually making it to where it's like, oh, he has spider powers, he can make webbing like a spider, he would kind of shoot it out of his ass. I'm just saying. Which I was bummed out that they didn't show how smart Peter Parker actually is. That's something the later Spider-Man franchises were like, all right, we do want to emphasize that, and I appreciate that. Well, I mean, the movie says he's smart, but other than saying that he is smart, he doesn't really do anything with that intellect. But what this movie really does for the most part nail is the tone. That 90s Spider-Man tone is absolutely 100% here. Sometimes it works perfectly, sometimes you're like,
Kill me again, Spider-Man!
I'm like, you see that? It's 90s cheese, that's for sure. Man, when he's committing, he's committing. But I suppose the good part is the cheese in this movie never compromises the enjoyment of the adventure. There is that. No, there is actually a superhero adventure, a character story he is telling in this movie. Let's talk about the action. This movie, it just set comic book movies up to be like, okay, you have to be this exciting now. Some of the CGI is a little dated now, sure, but in terms of adventure, this was next level. Live action Spider-Man, though he is CGI Spider-Man, swinging through the streets of New York, I had never experienced anything like it. And as much as I want to be, Mr. Objective movie guy, I can't help but watch this movie now and get transported back to that time. Funny enough, he doesn't actually get his Spider-Man suit until about an hour into the movie, which is one of the complaints in the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movie. But I think the reason this movie didn't warrant that many complaints, well, first of all, that social media was not a thing when this movie came out, but also it sets up the Peter Parker, Harry Osborn, Mary Jane whole friendship triangle thing. It sets it up very well. That's a complaint a lot of people have, is like Mary Jane in this movie is just kind of the girlfriend, the damsel, and that's her role, and you're not wrong. I will say a thing that does work with that in this movie is when the Green Goblin takes Mary Jane, and I was like, are they gonna do the Gwen Stacy thing in here? I thought she might actually get her neck snapped at a point. I thought Spider-Man was gonna web her foot and maybe break her neck, and I didn't know. So at least it has that tension going for it. I didn't know what to expect. And from there, we transition to talking about the casting. Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. Some of his dialogue's a little clunky. Like, someone was like, hey, that's how Spider-Man talks in the comic books, so maybe it'll translate perfectly to film. It doesn't always translate perfectly to film.
Well, beats taking the subway. Don't mind us, she just needs to use the elevator.
But that's not his fault. That's a screenwriting thing. It's in the script. I know Toby gets some shit from Spidey purists out there, but in the end, I've always enjoyed the guy as Spider-Man. I mean, he was Spider-Man for an entire generation, a generation who loves Spider-Man. I think the dude was solid. But if you want to talk about perfection, Willem Dafoe is Norman Osborn. Holy shit. It's like he was born to play this. Although his goblin suit, I was never a huge fan of it.
What?
It's like, you know, at the movie theater, we got these promo things. I think they were pins. And it was the best look at the Goblin I got. And that was the point where I was like, every shot of the Green Goblin in this movie, his mouth is open. He's making the same facial expression. Oh, God, it's going to be a helmet. He's not going to move his mouth, is he? I don't like that thought. To which one of the other projectionists was like, I'm sure they'll make it look good. I'm sure it'll be fine. And it was pretty much what I was afraid of. Which everything on paper, though, it's great. Like his motivation, him being the Green Goblin, everything he does, he starts wiping out his competition. It all works as the Green Goblin. It's a great first Spider-Man villain. It's a great villain to have him be like, I was just kind of montaging, saving people, and I was just stopping small crime. Now I gotta take out this asshole. This is next level asshole. It's all right, I guess I'm the only one who can. And he's actually wrapped up with his personal life. It's a perfect first Spider-Man villain. I suppose the Green Goblin in Spider-Man is proof positive that if you have a cosmetic gripe about a character's outfit, it's just a cosmetic gripe. As long as the character's still written like the character, acts like the character, the motivation is on point for the character, and the actor sells it and pulls it off. And all of which is true. He even starts fucking with Peter Parker's personal life. I think that's amazing. And everything about Willem Dafoe. In the suit as the Goblin, out of the suit as Norman Osborn, right down to that Goblin laugh. It all just sells it. So yeah, could have had a cooler suit, but the Goblin still rocks. My favorite parts of the Goblin is when Willem Dafoe's playing Norman Osborn talking to the Green Goblin. He's talking to the mask or he's talking to the mirror. Point is, those scenes are my favorite Goblin scenes. Everything else just kind of works to be like, all right, now he's gonna fight Spider-Man. Though that one scene where he captures Spider-Man and he tells him about no matter how much you've done for them, eventually they will hate you, rings true. That's just the nature of people, and I've always appreciated that scene, and it hasn't been proven wrong thus far. I think people would eventually hate Spider-Man if he were real. And that's where the devil's in the details. That's where this movie shines. Like that scene where Spider-Man needs to go into this burning building and this cop's like, you're under arrest. And you hear a lady screaming, though it's the Goblin, but no one else knows that. And he's like, I'm going. And then the cop lets him go. He's like, I'll be here when you get back. He's like, I ain't coming back. And the cop just has to let Spider-Man go. And I like those moments are awesome. They're wonderful superhero moments that I just love. And the other casting from the gods themselves, J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Jonah Jameson, I was like, I don't know who can do that perfectly. I don't know. Tom Skerritt, because it kind of looked like him, but he didn't have that energy. Then this J.K. Simmons guy, all right, we'll see what he has. Oh my God, he's perfect. So perfect, in fact, he's... No spoilers, never mind. And even then, he made J. Jonah Jameson something else. You know, he made it his own. I knew J. Jonah Jameson, he was this loud, angry person who hated Spider-Man. But J.K. Simmons just brought that fast-talking nature to where, oh yeah, he was loud and angry, but he was also fast-talking and hilarious.
You bring me some more shots of that newspaper-selling clown, maybe I'll take him off your hands. But I never said you have a job. Meat. I'll send you a nice box of Christmas meat. Best I can do. Get out of here.
But he didn't overcook the comedy. He was just amazing. And also important character moment, that moment where the Goblin has him and he's like, who brings the pictures of Spider-Man? He's like, I don't know, his stuff comes in the mail. It shows that he actually does care about Peter Parker. He cares about the people who work for him. And that's another Spidey element for me that I get here in these Raimi movies that I don't get in the other movies. It's the Daily Bugle, you know, J. Jonah Jameson, Robbie Robertson, Betty Brant, you know, the whole crew that works there. There was actually an Easter egg in here where I was like, oh my God, is that it? It was when Robbie Robertson's like, Eddie's been on it for weeks. We can't get a good picture of Spider-Man. I'm like, he's talking about Eddie Brock. Oh my God, there's Venom. They're going to bring Venom. It's going to be so awesome. And I cannot leave this video without talking about the Danny Elfman score. That Spider-Man theme, it's up there with Batman and Superman's theme. Like, I think Batman, I think I think of the Danny Elfman score. Superman, you know, the John Williams score. So classic, but so is Danny Elfman's Spider-Man score. Like, when the beginning credits first came on, it's like, this is instant classic superhero score. And that last shot of him swinging through New York when he's like, who am I? I'm Spider-Man. Boom, the score comes on. Spider-Man's just going through New York. With all the CGI, that blew my mind back in 2002. That's such a great closing scene for a superhero movie and a Spider-Man movie. And the musical score by Danny Elfman, it perfectly parallels what Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was doing, you know? It doesn't try to be Superman, it doesn't try to be the Batman theme. Just like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man doesn't try to be Superman or Batman, it tried to be Spider-Man. But I legit love this movie, even with some of the dated CGI, whether it be some of that or some of that early 2000s, even throwing back to 90s comic book cheese. None of it compromises the fact that when you're watching this movie with Peter Parker and he grows to be Spider-Man, that coming of age story, and then he has to step up and take out the Green Goblin, who's his friend's dad. All of it was what I wanted to see in a Spider-Man movie. And nothing, not the sands of time or the evolution of comic book movies, compromises that feeling. And that's what I mean when I say this is just the Spider-Man movie for the 90s Spider-Man fan in me. That perfectly sets up the tension between Spider-Man and Harry Osborn and Peter Parker, Mary Jane. Like, all of it is set up going forward to this trilogy we all knew we would get. And it's so clear as to where they're going. The vision is so there. Like, all of us, like, I knew after walking out of the first movie that, okay, in the third movie, Harry's going to be the new Goblin because that's what happened in the comic books and they set it up to do that. Won't be in the next movie. There will be some tension there, but in the third movie, that's when it'll happen. They were going there. They kind of did it, I suppose. I just appreciate the fact that they were clear in their vision. They showed the audience where their vision is going. They stuck the landing for this adventure, but also set it up to be a trilogy of its own adventure. They were actually going to do a 4, which then never happened. I loved Spider-Man before Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, but Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was the movie I now had to where I could easily show people, hey, this is why I love Spider-Man. It was the first time I had that. I could be like, look, Mom, this is why. This is why I didn't get chicks in high school. Worth it, right? Yeah, sure was. Whatever flaws this movie has, it doesn't change the fact that for me, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man remains awesome-tacular. There you go, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2, I'll eventually do that. Look, I'm kind of on a roll now. Just let it happen. It'll happen. They only made one sequel, right? Sure. I haven't sat down to watch 3 in its entirety since the movie theater. So who knows? Maybe I'll love it. Times change, people change. It's possible. Just don't remember loving that one. I mean, I've dabbled. It's been on TV and I've been like, all right, yeah, sure, while I'm doing other stuff, but I haven't engaged from beginning to end since the movie theater. Anyhow, Spider-Man, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.